My name is Sandra Lowell. I am 72 years old, and last night my family decided to erase me with one short message and a green emoji. It happened just after dinner. I was sitting on my porch in Dallas watching the sky fade from pink to gray when my phone buzzed. It was our family group chat. My son David had written, "We think it's best if Mom takes a step back for now." And right below it, my daughter-in-law Lily had reacted with a bright green thumbs up. For a few seconds I just stared at the screen, waiting for someone to add something, maybe a joke or an explanation. But there was nothing. Just those words and that tiny hand pointing upward like a seal of approval on my exile. I took a slow breath, felt the tightness in my chest, and typed my reply. Understood. I'll be stepping back from paying the house mortgage and from the $5,000 monthly transfers. Then I put the phone face down on the table and leaned back in my chair. The night air felt strange, quiet, almost peaceful. I could already imagine the shock on their faces when they read my message. For 15 years I had been the invisible engine that kept their lives running, the silent accountant who paid for their homes, their emergencies, their little luxuries. They had mistaken my kindness for duty and my silence for consent. That evening I poured myself a small glass of wine. My hand was shaking, but not from fear, from release. I realized that a single message had done what I couldn't do in years of exhaustion. It had closed a chapter. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't trying to fix anything. As I watched the lights from my neighbors' houses flicker in the distance, I whispered to myself, "This is what freedom sounds like." I didn't know yet that the messages, the guilt, the tears, and the accusations were coming. All I knew was that for one precious night, I could breathe without owing anyone a thing. 15 years earlier, life looked very different. My son David had just introduced us to Lily, a bright young woman with an easy smile and big plans. "Mom," he said, "she's the one." I believed him, of course I did. I wanted my children to have the kind of love I once had with my late husband, Tom. The wedding was beautiful but expensive. David said they were struggling with costs, so I covered the dress, the venue, and half of the catering. It felt good at the time, like I was helping to build their happiness. When Lily hugged me and said, "You're like a second mom to me," my heart melted. I didn't know then that every thank you would soon come with a price tag. A year later, David called again. "Mom, we found a perfect house near the park," he said, excitement in his voice. "But we're short on the down payment. I had just sold a small condo I owned, the one Tom and I bought in our 20s. That money was meant to keep me comfortable in retirement, but David sounded so hopeful. "It's just $40,000, Mom," he said. "We'll pay you back, I promise." I told myself it was family. You don't charge interest to your children, so I wired him the money and went to bed smiling, thinking I had secured my family's future. I didn't know I had just bought my way into a lifetime of silent expectations. Months later, another call came. "Mom, the mortgage is higher than we thought. Just for a few months, can you help?" A few months turned into 5 years. $1,200 every month, automatically withdrawn from my account. Then my daughter Erin called. "Mom, the kitchen is falling apart," she said. "And the kids need tutoring. We'll pay you back when Mark's new job starts." It never did. I paid for the remodeling, the tutoring, the birthdays, the so-called emergencies that were just poor planning. Somewhere along the way, I stopped being their mother and became their financial plan. I wasn't asked how I was doing, only if I could help one more time. Every transfer came with a thank you, but no one ever asked, "Are you okay, Mom?" I told myself this was love, but deep down I knew I was confusing love with sacrifice. It was a warm Saturday evening in late spring when everything shifted. I had invited everyone over for dinner, something I hadn't done in a while. I cooked roast chicken, mashed potatoes, and peach cobbler, the way Tom used to like it. I set the table with the good china, thinking maybe a home-cooked meal could bring us closer again. When we sat down, the laughter felt forced. David talked about work. Lily checked her phone every few minutes. Erin complained about her bills. I listened quietly, waiting for the right moment. After dessert, I took a deep breath and said, "Kids, there's something important I need to talk about." They looked up, forks frozen in midair. "I've decided it's time for you both to handle your own finances," I said carefully. "You have stable jobs now, and I'm not going to be able to help as much moving forward." The room went silent. Then David spoke first, his voice sharp. "What does that mean, Mom? You're cutting us off." "I'm not cutting anyone off," I replied. I'm just saying it's time for you to stand on your own. Lily gave a short, bitter laugh. Wow, after everything we've done for you. I blinked. Everything you've done for me? I wanted to ask what she meant, but the words caught in my throat. Erin leaned forward, her tone half pleading, half irritated. Mom, you know we count on you. This isn't just about money, it's about family. Family doesn't mean I have to keep funding your lives, I said softly. I'm 72. I need to think about my future too. David slammed his glass onto the table. You're changing, Mom. You're not the same. No one helped me clean up that night. The sound of chairs scraping across the floor was the last thing I heard before the door closed. I stood alone in the quiet kitchen, staring at the half-empty wine glasses, and whispered to myself, maybe it's time I changed. After that dinner, the silence arrived like a storm that had already passed. My phone stopped ringing. No weekend visits, no short texts, no photos of the grandkids. Days stretched into weeks, and the distance between us grew like an invisible wall. Then one afternoon, Erin called. Mom, can we grab coffee? I think we should talk. I felt a spark of hope. Maybe she understood. Maybe she missed me. I drove to the cafe early and found her already seated, scrolling through her phone. She didn't even look up when I arrived. Hi, honey, I said, sitting down. Everything okay? She sighed and placed her phone on the table. David told me about your little announcement at dinner. Mom, that was really unfair. You've been so negative lately. What's going on with you? Negative. The word hit me harder than I expected. I'm not negative, I said slowly. I'm just trying to set boundaries. I can't keep supporting everyone forever. Erin frowned. You're being dramatic. We're family. Families help each other. I've helped for 15 years, I replied. At some point, helping turns into enabling. She looked offended, like I had said something unforgivable. You've changed, Mom. You used to be kind. I wanted to say kindness doesn't mean I have to be used, but I swallowed the words. I realized nothing I said would change her mind. She finished her latte, said she had a meeting, and left. I sat there, alone at that little table, surrounded by people talking and laughing, and felt smaller than I had in years. 2 days later came the message, the one that ended it all. David's group chat text. We think it's best if Mom takes a step back for now. And Lily's green thumbs up. I stared at that emoji for a long time. It was strange how such a tiny symbol could feel like a knife. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't even call them. I opened my laptop, logged into my online banking, and started making changes. I canceled every automatic transfer, every shared card, every joint account. If they wanted distance, I'd give them distance. But this time it would come without my money attached. I whispered to myself, you raised adults, Sandra. Let them prove it. For the first time in years, the house was silent. No phone buzzing, no constant messages asking for help, no reminders to send money. Just the ticking of the clock and the sound of my own breathing. The first morning after cutting the transfers, I woke up expecting panic. Instead, I felt calm. I brewed my coffee slowly, opened the curtains, and watched the sunlight spill across my kitchen table. The air felt lighter, like a weight I hadn't noticed was finally gone. By the third day, I found myself doing things I had forgotten I enjoyed. I took a walk in the park, visited the library, even pulled out the old paint set Tom had given me years ago. I hadn't painted in over a decade. My hands were stiff at first, but the colors flowed like something waiting to come alive again. Then the messages began. David, Mom, we need to talk. You're overreacting. Lily, you can't just stop paying the mortgage like that. We have responsibilities. Erin, I can't believe you're doing this to us. The kids are confused. They think Grandma doesn't love them. I read every word quietly, one by one, like a script I had already memorized. Every sentence was a blend of guilt and entitlement, written not out of love, but out of fear of losing comfort, not connection. I didn't respond. I didn't owe them explanations. I muted the chat and went back to my painting. The brush strokes steadied my heartbeat in a way nothing else could. Each day without their demands felt like a small victory, even if it came wrapped in loneliness. I missed hearing my grandchildren's laughter, but I didn't miss the phone calls that always ended with, Mom, can you help us out? That night, I sat on the porch again, the same place where it had all started. The sky was deep blue, the air soft and quiet. For the first time in years, the silence didn't feel empty, it felt earned. And I realized that peace isn't found when everyone is happy with you. It's found when you finally stop apologizing for wanting to rest. A week later, I heard the doorbell ring 3 times in a row, sharp, impatient. When I looked through the window, David was standing there alone, hands in his pockets, shoulders tense. I opened the door but didn't smile. "Mom, we need to talk," he said. "Come in," I replied, stepping aside. He walked in, glancing around the living room like it was unfamiliar territory. We sat across from each other, the space between us heavy with years of unspoken truth. "Mom, this whole thing has gone too far," he started. "That message, it wasn't meant the way you took it. Lily was upset, I was frustrated, we just needed a little space." I nodded slowly. "Space," I repeated, "and that's exactly what I gave you." He shifted uncomfortably. "You didn't have to stop helping us. The mortgage, the bills were drowning now. It's not fair." I stood up quietly and walked to my desk. From the drawer, I pulled out a thick gray folder and placed it on the coffee table. "What's this?" he asked. "Every transfer I've made for the past 15 years, I said, opening it. "Every payment, every favor, every emergency you couldn't handle on your own." David looked down at the papers, his face tightening as I turned the pages. "40,000 for your down payment, 72,000 for 5 years of mortgage payments, thousands for gifts, trips, repairs, and holidays. In total, $243,000. His mouth opened but no sound came out. I continued, calm and steady. "I'm not angry, David. I'm just done. You call it selfish, I call it survival." "Mom, it's not about money," he argued. "You've just changed." I gave a small laugh. "Of course I've changed. I finally learned that love doesn't mean bankruptcy." He stood up, red-faced. "You're going to regret this." I met his eyes, my voice quiet but firm. "No, son, you'll learn from it. That's what growing up is supposed to be." He left without another word, slamming the door so hard the windows rattled. I waited for the tears to come, but they didn't. I just stood there, staring at the folder still open on the table. The evidence of 15 years of sacrifice lay in black and white. And for the first time, the numbers didn't make me feel small, they made me feel free. The following weeks were quieter than I expected. No calls, no apologies, no sudden visits. The silence that once frightened me now felt like a soft blanket. I could finally hear my own thoughts without interruption. Grace, my older sister, called one morning. She had heard bits of what happened. "Sandra," she said, "you didn't lose your family. You found yourself. Don't ever feel guilty for that." Her words stayed with me. I had spent years drowning in guilt, but for once someone told me it was okay to breathe. My neighbor, George Reed, started waving from across the yard more often. One afternoon he walked over holding 2 cups of coffee. "You look like someone who needs company," he said, with a gentle smile. We sat on the porch and talked for hours about everything: our late spouses, our grown children, the strange quiet that fills a house after everyone moves out. He didn't interrupt or offer advice, he just listened. And for the first time in a long time, I felt seen, not as a mother or a provider, but as a person. In the evenings I began to paint again. My hands found rhythm and color: the blue of peace, the gold of forgiveness, the soft gray of starting over. Sometimes I'd catch myself humming while I worked and I'd stop, surprised. It had been years since I'd hummed without sadness in my throat. Then, one evening, my phone rang. It was Sophie, my 16-year-old granddaughter. I almost didn't answer, afraid it would just be another plea to fix things. But when I picked up, her voice trembled. "Grandma, I just wanted to say I'm proud of you. I heard Mom and Dad talking, and I think you did the right thing." I closed my eyes, letting the tears fall freely. "Thank you, sweetheart," I whispered. Her voice was soft but certain. "I hope when I grow up, I'm as strong as you." When we hung up, I sat there for a long time, holding the phone to my chest. That small call, that moment of understanding, it healed something money never could. For the first time, I believed I hadn't lost everything. I had simply made room for something real to grow. 6 months later, I woke to the sound of birds outside my window and sunlight pouring across the floor. My life was quieter now, but not empty. It was mine. The mornings no longer began with requests or reminders. They began with peace. That afternoon, my phone rang. It was David. I hesitated before answering, taking a slow breath. "Hello," I said. His voice was softer than I remembered. "Hi, Mom. I just wanted to tell you you were right." I didn't speak, waiting for him to continue. Lily and I sold the house. We've been going to counseling. It's been hard, but it's the first time I've felt like an adult in years. I wanted to thank you for finally saying no. Tears filled my eyes. David, I don't need thanks. I just need you to live your life fully. He paused. Do you think you can forgive me? I thought about that for a moment. Forgiveness isn't something I give, son. It's something we both earn. You're already on your way. When the call ended, I stood by the window, watching the afternoon light move across the street. I felt no anger, no resentment, only quiet relief. The storm had passed. Later that week, George invited me for dinner at a small restaurant by the lake. We sat outside, watching the water reflect the sunset. You look happier, he said. I am, I told him. For years, I thought my worth came from what I gave. Turns out it comes from who I am. He smiled. That's the hardest lesson to learn. We toasted with simple house wine, the kind Tom and I used to drink, and I realized something profound: peace doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers, soft and steady, like the water against the dock. When I returned home that night, I picked up my paintbrush and began a new canvas. A sunset in orange and violet, colors of closure and beginning. As the last light faded through my window, I whispered, they called me selfish for wanting to live, but self-love isn't selfishness, it's survival. And as the paint dried, I finally understood. You cannot pour from an empty cup. After years of giving, I was full again, filled with my own life.